Welcome. My name's Doug Finke. I'm the host today, and I'll be chatting with Hal Rottenberg, and it should be fun. We're going to talk about AI and maybe with AI, maybe. We'll see how it goes. Um, and before we kick off, uh, tomorrow, I'm going to do another live stream for about an hour on turn your PowerShell into your Excel automation machine. So I wrote and created I'm sorry, I'm looking at the notes. Expected Pink Floyd. Yeah. I'll be seeing David Gilmour next month, but no Floyd today. Yeah, so I wrote the import Excel module that lets you automate Excel, and you don't even have to have it installed. So if you want to see more about that, tomorrow's the day. By the way, which one's pink? It's time to back to the show. And at the end of the month, on the 25th, I'm going to do another PowerShell AI build hour. That's my premium content. We're going to talk about the new OpenAI canvas and a whole bunch of things. I'm going to show some demos how you can build apps really cool in a quick way with this new piece of software. The other thing that's really cool is they released it last week and they've already upgraded it, but it will still be a week short. They're going to be doing I think their London or their Singapore Dev Day. OpenAI will be a week after I demo. So I'm sure there's going to be some really cool stuff happening 7 days after I do this. And then if you're in New York, which I don't think most people are, a former colleague of mine from Morgan Stanley, he just became an MVP. So he's going to kick off a Microsoft Ignite watch party. We're going to have a bunch of MVPs in a room here in New York, and we're going to watch the Ignite keynote. I don't think it's going to be an Ignite keynote. I think it's going to be an AI keynote. And we're going to chat about it, and it should be fun. Cool. So just a couple more things. If you want to watch this one again, I'm going to drop this in here. Here's my YouTube channel. By the way, let's see. There we go. And so if you want to subscribe to that channel, that's where I'm going to post this YouTube video. I do videos on all kinds of different things, PowerShell, AI, other types of tech, short videos, long videos, and this is where I post all the 2.5 Geeks as well as the other pieces that I do, including the other live streams. So check that out. What else we got? Yeah. All right. So if you want to also, just as a quick note, if you got here through the meetup, you can get back on the meetup and see the other meetups that I've scheduled for the rest of this month. So Hal, I know we're not going to start talking yet about what we're going to talk about, but I'm going to show some stuff on my PowerShell AI module with agents and autonomous agents.
I'm excited.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I've
next
messed with agents a little bit, but not a lot. So I've got a lot
and
to learn and
you
not
did that
done
with
anything. Go ahead.
LangChain, I'm guessing, or
No,
Crew
there was
AI,
there's Auto GPT and AutoGen.
ABAGI. Oh,
Um,
AutoGen, some from Microsoft.
AutoGen from Microsoft, and I think it's Auto GPT is the other project that I played with a little bit.
Cool,
There's a
cool.
couple different things. Grip Tape is another one, and maybe I'll talk about that one later.
Awesome. Yeah, I looked at a whole bunch of them and I was like, oh, why should all the Python people have fun? Let's put some of this in PowerShell and see if we can do it differently. So what I'm going to show you is, first off, you can do an install. Let's see, PSAI. If you want to follow along, you can do an install module PSAI, and everything I'm going to do here is part of that module. I just recently put out a new release, and it has all the agent stuff now. It didn't before. It does now. N8, and how do you pronounce that? Is it a NAN?
I guess
Is it a
N8N or
either?
Yeah, N8N it's an automation project, similar to Node-RED, if you've tried that one, low
Yep,
code kind of interface.
yep. Played with Node-RED. Had buddies at IBM. That was a fun toy.
Yeah.
So if you want to follow along, you do this, you do an install on that module, and then you can do something like this. You can do a new agent. And I see Axel's on, and Axel's done some really cool PRs for this. Yeah, he's real excited about it and doing some really cool PRs, and this thing's taking shape. And I took all this not out of my own head, but it was like, as Hal said, looking at different SDKs for agents, which I believe is the next chapter, and maybe it's going to be the real blowout moment for what AI can do. And I looked at things like LangChain, Crew AI, AutoGen, Semantic Kernel, Baby AGI, Auto GPT. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. Maybe we can whittle, I like putting things down to the simplest way that I can do it so I can play with the knobs and dials. And then all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, this thing does a lot of stuff. I don't know how it's doing it. So if you do a new agent, and I'll just set that here, we'll set it to a variable. Okay. We'll do really, really simply. So it's just basically, this is just a configuration, right? And you can do a bunch of things on it. It takes tools. We're going to give it a personality at some point. You can set the LLMs relative to all of the OpenAI LLMs and Azure OpenAI it works with. And that's one of the things that Axel's bringing to the table. He's come up with a really cool library. We had talked about plugins for this, and he's building out the plugin capabilities. So you can do Olama, and you can do Mistral and GitHub AI, as well as AI Toolkit. So yeah, that's coming, which is going to be a lot of fun, I think. And so anyway, so I have an agent, and then I can do something like $agent, and I can say get agent response, right? So standard piping. And I'll do something like, what is the capital of France? I don't know. That's the big prompt that people do. I like doing as well. Cool. So now what that does, what that did, it set up the agent so that it can interact with OpenAI, and I'm using GPT-4o Mini, and it took that prompt, what is the capital of France, passed it back to the model, and then the model checked it out and said, okay, well, here's your answer, right? But what's different about this is if I say something like, what is today? We'll see a weird answer. It says October 4th, 2023. Now, at this point, a lot of people, when they interact with ChatGPT Web or something like this or some of the other tools, and they see this, well, what do you mean it's not 2023, it's 2024? And they punch out and they go, this AI is not that smart. How can it be AI? I'm glad that Hal's laughing. And this
Yeah,
is,
I'm laughing because people sometimes will make jokes at the expense of AI, and they can be funny, it can be clever, and oh, that's so silly and cute. It doesn't know about this recent event, but that kind of mocking, it doesn't age very well. So there's already ways around that particular problem
And
of
I'm going to show you
data.
one right now. And you're
I'm looking
absolutely
for it.
correct. And I think people with the denial mindset, like, oh, it can't do my job. It can't even tell the date. Can't count the number of R's in strawberry. Okay, that's true, but that's not what it's for. And there's ways to work with this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate the agent, right? And I like this. I like doing it in PowerShell because this works in your scripts, so you can bring NLP to your scripts. Works at the command line, so you can experiment with different models. You can experiment with how this thing works, so you can begin to build an intuition about what is it to elicit responses from a model. What is it to do prompt engineering? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say instructions.
Now, can I pause
And
you
I'm
right
going
there
to,
for a second?
yeah,
You
absolutely.
have an interactive few lines of display there that are happening as you are doing type ahead.
Yes.
How do you get that? Because I don't have that in my shell.
You don't have that? Well, that's because you're a Python guy that punched out of Microsoft.
Perhaps. But I'm on a Mac right now, running terminal, running PowerShell in that terminal, installed your module just a minute ago.
Oh, sweet. Um, well, thank you for doing it for before we talked. But so what that is the it's the list predictor. And let me see if I can,
Maybe pin
uh,
that for later because I don't want to all the way sidetrack you, but I definitely want to have access to that guy.
yeah, no problem. That's been out. I think it's still in experimental. I'm not positive. Maybe someone could drop it in a link. But that's the predictor model that came out. It's not exactly the predictor. It's another piece that came out with PS4 PS read line. It uses that whole technology, and it's on
Okay.
top of that. It's really cool. Like as you're seeing what I'm doing, it's super, and it recognizes fuzzy searching as well.
Okay.
So we got, all right, cool. So what I did here was notice the instructions up here, right? So I'm giving it a steering prompt is and it's really a term of called a system prompt. And I'm actually injecting today's date, and I'm using string interpolation in PowerShell, right? So use this as a current date, and everybody should know get date if you're PowerShell here. And we're good to go. So now when I look at my agent, and let's convert that to JSON. Okay, now you can see things like the tools are null. We'll get to that in a second. Here's my config for the LLM, and you can see the instructions are here. So every time now I'm going to do a prompt, it's going to take this set of instructions plus, thank you, Axel, boom. You can take this set of instructions, it'll take this set of instructions, give it as a steering prompt, and then take the prompt that I give it and then it uses the model uses all of that to answer the question, so to speak. If that's so, what is today? And there we go. Today is October 10th, 2024. That's because I injected that into it. Now, this is right. If you're using just ChatGPT Web, you can't do this kind of stuff. If you're using the Playground and paying for the REST API, which is what this module is based on, you can start doing these kinds of things. But this is how you can augment the model's knowledge, right? Short of,
So what
yeah.
what did you just do? Is that part of the system prompt? Is it appended to the system prompt, or is it added to the memory store? Two different things.
Oh, dude, I have a real AI person on the line. And I thought you said to me that you thought AI stood for artificial insemination, but
Oh, no, that was not me. That was someone
that
else.
wasn't that was somebody else. I'm sorry, Hal. What that does is, and I actually have something in here called pretty print. So so I actually provide the agent with memory capabilities, tool capabilities, and knowledge capabilities. So this is what is in the just storing the conversation. So it's the memory. And you can see that the first one is you're a helpful agent, and then that's how I set it up to begin with, and then by
Mhm.
using instructions, it sets up another system message, and the model is trained to work with those with the priority, right? So it knows how to look at this as a grounding capability, and then now it's able to answer the question, what is today? And here we can see this is the assistant coming back telling the answer. So this is how you get past, a lot of people want to mock these capabilities. My name is Hal. AI was always inevitable. Dude, every time I think of AI, I think of you. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. So thank you for being here. So now the agent is set up with an instruction. It's got memory. But let's take it a little further. So now that it knows what today is, let's try and do something like, do I have it here? Yeah, cool. What are the job stats numbers? Notice I do #S. What are the job stat numbers for the year? Let's see what it does. And which one am I interested in? Let's say I don't. Yeah, it's interesting. The models are getting better, so it knows how to do certain things. The job, unemployment, or let's go with employed. And I could even misspell this, and that's what's cool about. See, I'm going to misspell it, and it's still going to figure out from its text prediction capability. And so now it knows, even though I gave it today's date, it's only been trained up to 2023, right? So it doesn't have specific stats for 2024 because it doesn't have real-time information. Now we're going to solve that problem too. By giving these models tools, you take it to the next level. So something that OpenAI did initially, and then other, Gemini and Meta are doing, and others, Anthropic specifically, they're doing something called function calling, and that's where you can take a function, take the signature of the function, meaning what is the name of the function, what are the parameters, and then you can wrap it up in some JSON, and then you pass it back to the model. And when the model tries to answer a question, it looks through its tools and says, "Oh, what can I do?" And it doesn't call the function, but what it does is it returns in the response, "Hey, I think you should call this function." And that's what I've built. I put a bunch of plumbing around all that to make that work. So let's first set up our agent again. Okay. And we will do a tool. And I have a tool called New Tably. And this is also part of, if you do the install module, you'll get this. You need to set up an API key. It's free. You get 1,000 queries a month. It's like Google search, but it's tuned for LLMs. And again, it's free and it's really slick. Now, if I do a convert, okay, you can see this is the tool that got set up. So it took the actual function name from PowerShell that I built called invoke web search. I'm not going to go through that. It's like 6 lines of code. It's basically an invoke REST method to an endpoint with a bunch of parameters and the query that I give it. And then here you can also see the query. This is the query that it's going to take, so it knows about that, and it knows the description. And now a shout out to Axel. I'm using his new module that really takes this function generation to a new level. Mine was, I did it with the AST, but Axel actually took it one step further. further than I would have taken it and further than I did take it. And it's really got some real capabilities, which are cool. And if you join me at the end of the month, I'm going to go into more depth about how that works and why it's really neat. So we still got the same config, still got the same instructions for the steering, but now we have given the model a tool. So let's go back and let's ask the same question about what are the job employment stats for the year. And I'm going to break out of that because I want to do one more piece, and I'm going to recreate that again. I also have something called show tool calls, right? And what that does is when we make the agent call, we'll see if it, so now you can actually see it's instructed my code, hey, you should go call this thing called invoke web search. And here's the query I wanted to give it to you. So it took my prompt and it created a query for a web search tool. And now, not only do we have a date, but it now has a tool that was able to search. When it did the search to Tavily, I took those results and then passed it back. Now, this is not hard-coded to Tavily, right? I have several tools that you, when you download it, you'll have there's a financial tool in there, there's a calculator tool, and there are more coming. So you can just basically wrap any function that you have in PowerShell and more, which join me on October 25th. And then you can plug into the model, and then the model sits there and says, well, which one should I choose? Does one make sense? Or should I just answer this from my, from my data, my training data. And what's cool, because I'm in the terminal, right? I can actually, it gives me actually a bunch of links down here, and I can then click on this. So this is just in the console. I could have saved this into a markdown file and then rendered it with a renderer, but I have something called Glow. I don't know if you use this, Hal. And so we're going to do the
Now, the
same thing.
other day, and I've hardly touched it, and I want to see a real example here.
Here we go. So it's going to take that data, and because the model comes back with markdown, it'll put that out, and then Glow should render it a little nicer. Let's see what happens. And today it's a little slow, but
Well,
scaling up.
anytime you're going to use that tool, you're waiting on two things, right? You've got the LLM, and then you have whatever it is that tool's doing.
Exactly. So it goes to the LLM. The LLM tells me call this function, calls the function, goes to Tavily, takes the results from Tavily, passes it back to the model, and then the model came out with this response. It says, oh, I figured it out. So here's what it did. Here's how it rendered the markdown, and then you can see it does really nice rendering on the links as well. So this is becoming a whole new way that you can start. Now I could wrap this whole thing up into a simple function and give it to a user, or I can use it myself. And now I have this really nice interaction. And what's cool is because this is PowerShell based, I can put this behind a web page. I can put it in an Azure function. I can put it in a GitHub action, so that if people are just dropping queries, I can set up that so they can say, here, I want this query done, this query done, this query. And then the action just kicks off, it does all the stuff, produces an MD file, a markdown file, and they're ready to go. Anyway. So what are we cooking over here? What's your experience with the base model selection? Cool. Cool.
So what I'm getting at is that tool usage depends on the LLM understanding that it needs to call a tool,
You
and
got it.
not all of them are great at that.
Absolutely. So I'm using the 4.0 mini and the 4.0, and then the 3.5, as I see mentioned by Axel, it does not support it. The Grok interfaces, GROQ, they don't, most of those models not. Mistral does not support it.
And if you
So
went
yes,
the Olama route and kind of try your hand at various open source models, some of them are okay and some of them are not.
Exactly. So you get what you pay for, and depending on your scenario. So I've not. That's one of the reasons I didn't do the plugin, which is I'm really happy that Axel's building it and we're having fun. He's doing the building, and I'm going, wow, that's really cool. But some people, I'm like, I'm not. I don't feel like doing all. Every time I would post about PSAI, invariably 5 people bounced in and said, hey, does it support Olama? Does it support Mistral? I'm like, no, it doesn't. And one person told me he works for VMware, and he's like, yeah, he goes inside data centers in the cage with the clients where there's no Wi-Fi because they're protecting medical
Mhm.
records. And he's like, but I bring in Olama, I bring in Visual Studio Code, and I bring in a Continue extension so that I can actually get some basic answers. And he says, they're not as good as Copilot or what Microsoft offers, but they don't need internet connection. So it depends on, and I was like, oh, that's a really good scenario. So, I like that concept. Um, so yeah, so if you want to learn more, one, download the module, install -module PSAI. I plan to stay on top of this. OpenAI just had their first dev day of 3 this year. They're going to have another one in, I think, London at the end of the month, and then Singapore at the end of next month. So they're dropping some really cool stuff. Anthropic's dropping some really cool stuff. So this space AI is just off the charts, right? And we'll talk about that. So yeah, I've been having a great time. I've been building this. This is my third time rebuilding this because OpenAI says, hey, we're gonna get rid of this and we're gonna put this in. And I'm like, okay. So I'm hoping over the next couple of weeks that they're just gonna keep improving it rather than taking things out. So, but I will stay on top of it because this is a very exciting space. So how? That was my demo. Anyway, so how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm
Excellent.
glad to be talking with you and your community. I have not done a lot of this. I've done some, but not a lot since the early days of the Power Scripting podcast when I was doing a weekly show, right? And doing a live stream and after the podcast faded a bit, Jonathan and I did that for about 10 years.
That was 10 years.
Yes,
Wow.
10 years, about 330 episodes, just over. Around that time, we had a million listeners aggregate. So
Nice.
it was a big thing. Really had a
It
lot of fun
was.
with that. And, it faded because my attention had to go elsewhere because my professional life had changed. And, I joined a different company working with different types of technology and your brain you just only have so much attention you can spend and it wasn't so exclusively on the Microsoft kind of Microsoft centric ecosystem anymore.
Well, that's like a nice way to say you abandoned us, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, it's funny though. Yes, I in a way I did, but also like I never stopped. I mean, I have PowerShell on my Mac, for example, as I mentioned a minute ago. I use it often whenever I need to automate anything on my own workstation, my Windows box, which is under my desk as well. So, I didn't stop using the things and the reasons that I were interested in PowerShell. That never stopped. So,
Right.
and I think the example that you were giving earlier with kind of the interactive nature of what you're demoing with PSAI, that's a great thing about PowerShell. That interactive, console experience that Microsoft worked so hard to create. Um, it's not just a language in which you can write instructions in a script and run them, so that interactive nature, get member and examining things and poking and playing, that's a huge part of it. And like that's how I learn, honestly. For me, that's
Exactly.
getting hands-on with an object and
Mhm. Mhm.
learning how it works, and then I'll go write a script.
Learn by doing. And then that's exactly what's important about AI and models. It's like, you can be a denier. It's not going to help you, I think, much. It's not a healthy place to be. That you don't, it's that you figure it can't do your job. I don't think that's true anymore. I didn't think so 3 years ago. It wasn't where it should be or could be. And then other people's like, well, I don't have time to learn it. Well, it's gonna, and then I usually say in these chats and live streams, I say AI is not going to replace you, but someone who knows how to use AI will. You
Yeah,
saw what I just did in a few bunch of hardly any code, and I can wrap this up and abstract the crap out of it. So, I can make this even easier for myself to use or others to use, and then I can put it anywhere. I can now pull in unemployment numbers from all over the world in a matter of seconds and whatnot. It's going to be hard to stay up with that if you don't know how this works.
yeah.
So what got you
But
interested in AI?
well, first of all, I mean, my name's Hal, and so it was inevitable at some point. I mean, I even though I was born technically after the movie and book, 2001: Space Odyssey were published, which was like I think 69, somewhere in there. Um,
About that. Well, you're a young pup.
I
Go
was
ahead.
born in 74, so it
Okay.
predated me a little bit, but that was with me, everyone that I would see, especially earlier in life, they would make a reference to Hal and,
And you were like,
that
what the
stuff.
hell is
So,
that?
it was inevitable at some point. So and I'm a big fan of science fiction. I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, and I go back and forth, and then sci-fi hits me and I realized, wow, this near-term future that was predicted, or even a fantastical far future that was predicted decades ago, you look around and you realize, oh wow, we're in that today, and it's not always the same. There's always distinctions, and but the maybe my favorite part about science fiction is kind of that this is what could be. Do you like it or not? think about this now because we
Mhm.
have control over how this might actually pan out in the future.
Great
So
point. And,
yeah,
Asimov and whatnot, and those folks, and even the early days of AI in the 50s, they had an amazing vision that is, they couldn't achieve. But yeah. So I just wanted, because you bring up HAL. So when I first was going to build PSAI agent, I was like, oh, let me put this up in the gallery just to kind of like sit on it. And the first thing I put up, and now I've taken down because I've integrated it elsewhere. But the first thing I put up is this function, and it's the wrong function. Oops, let's try where's the right one? Oh, come on. All right, let's bring it up in code. And because oh man, I just blew the whole timing of the joke. Oh, there it is. So I put it up with this invoke Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. And as I wrote that, I was like, oh, I wonder what Hal's doing, even though I can't
nice.
pronounce your last name. So
And
yeah,
even hardware extraction layer, that's me.
exactly. That's what. But it's pretty amazing that, and between like Hal and the Terminator and the sci-fi and Star Trek, as I like to wear my shirt,
Right.
it's like the holodeck and replicators, and people have that image, and it's good that you have that image of it, but you have to kind of get away from that, in terms of this. They're not going to come down as robots and kill us. What they're going to do is they're going to do propaganda hits on us so that we think that we're doing the right thing and voting for the right people or whatever it's going to be, or that we
Mhm.
should all go in this direction, and then we should be and it's not going to be that. It's not going to be a utopia, but there's a positive in between where you can actually really use this thing as an exoskeleton and give your brain an amazing lift. So
Well,
anyway,
it's not going to be a utopia. Neither will it be a dystopia, right? Because that's the other extreme. We're going to be somewhere in the middle. And I have this hypothesis that I've been carrying around with me for a long time because of the disruptive nature of AI, right? It's very natural that people are going to be dismayed, shocked, afraid, whatever, all these negative emotions. It's understandable, right? You can have empathy
absolutely.
for that at the same time as having a very reasonable argument against whatever it is they're complaining about. I get it. But my hypothesis is that the larger the change to a society that something would bring, some innovation, the longer it will take. And
Mm,
sometimes it's an entire generation. So literally, the
mm,
people who are learning a thing and it could be impacted a thing, they won't be the ones impacted to a large degree. It'll be their children that'll be impacted, and their children will be able to, embrace it in a way that their parents couldn't. I'm including myself. I
absolutely.
happen to be human actually, so you know, change, it's hard sometimes, but it's also inevitable. So I
Absolutely.
would
And
rather be learning about it and taking advantage of it rather than be surprised by it.
learning about it, while it has a lot of wacky stuff, and we have to kind of disassociate ourselves from like, oh, I'm going to write a function that's going to do this, and I'm going to do a loop and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like I don't like doing functional programming because it's about immutable data, and you can't. Oh, I set x equal to 1. I try to say x plus 1, and it says failure, cannot change data. Well, what the heck kind of language is this? I don't like programming in that space. So it takes a bunch of time to get comfortable with what this does and what it can't do, and we have to kind of like change our mindset as to it's not like the standard program. It's not standard programming. Um, but I did so
Now
I
you're
always like,
thinking, now you got me thinking about probabilistic versus deterministic.
there you go. And if I played with quantum, the Q sharp stuff for a while, and I punched out of that early too, at that point, because you can't even flip a coin with quantum because there's no such thing as true and false. It's a probability of a distribution. And it's
Yeah.
like it's superposition and subposition. And I'm like, I can't flip a coin and like that's my hello world, right? And then I was like, I'm done with this. And a lot of people just, Quantum does some really amazing stuff. They use it in Wall Street. And but I was like, that's not for me. But when I
Now,
got to this, yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Have you
yeah,
noticed what OpenAI has been doing lately in the interface of ChatGPT with this type of problem? Because they know that people look at AI and they think, okay, hallucinations, I can't depend on this. That's a problem. Then
exactly.
they started down the path of tools, and tools are expensive, and you can't use an external third party microservice for everything. That's kind of like You just went from something being free to something being $1 kind of mind frame. You're like, okay, I've got to go set up that other third party thing, perhaps. What they're doing now, most lately, is when you ask a question that requires a deterministic answer, they are writing code on the fly for you that will give you the answer and then executing the code.
You got it. You want one of the cool things I just saw recently when they dropped O1 previews for the new reasoning models that they have is somebody says, watch this. And it says, what, uh, how many R's in strawberry? And it comes back and says two. And then the next part of the prompt, their turnaround, they said, write a program to verify that. And it comes back, oh, it has three, right? So that's the crazy space that this is in, that you can actually, you don't even know what wrote it in. It probably wrote it in Python. But to your point,
It could
that's
be
what
a DSL that humans don't even ever touch.
exactly. I think it was early 20, late 22, and after I saw the APIs, I saw people doing where they were doing things like telling the model, you have an emulator in this language, do X,
Hmm.
Y, and Z. And it's like, oh, wow, we're done. This is DSL. I love you. You're a good teacher. Me, I'm like, figure it out. But yeah,
I don't
they
know your
also have,
group, so I wanted to, not leave anybody behind just in case.
that's cool. And what's a domain specific language? Um, but we won't go there. But they also have now stuff like structured outputs is what they're also using. And that helps being able to set parameters up to be guaranteed JSON. And they're also saying ways to, and that's what's going to be able to enable agents to be
Yeah.
non-hallucinogenic.
And don't just watch OpenAI. Anthropic as well. In fact, they were first to the game, you could say, in some of the space with the artifacts feature they released, maybe a couple
Absolutely.
or something.
Even though Canvas blows it away, but we'll
I
talk
like
about that.
Canvas. I haven't, all I've seen is like a screenshot. I haven't touched it yet, but yeah,
But just a quick point on Anthropic. They are all ex-OpenAI researchers. So it's pretty interesting to watch them compete.
yeah, yeah. Well, and where they're trying to basically, find something to distinguish themselves and differentiate themselves from each other in these in the open source models. They can do a lot in the model, but they can also do a lot in the user interface. And I
Exactly.
don't know if you looked at some of the kind of the funding, woes and state of OpenAI. You know, they they burn so much cash, in labor and in especially GPUs. It takes a lot of money to keep that org going.
It's
And
crazy.
they just got a refresh. Okay, that's great. But in the meantime, you've got, Anthropic doing this and these open source companies doing that. So they have to continue to innovate, which is
Great
great.
point. A great point. And it's, this is almost like back, I don't know, I think you're too young for it, but this is like back in the Borland Microsoft days when C++ was the big thing and they were constantly competing and every month they came out with a new release. And it's like, we can do this and we can inline that. And this is the optimizations we have. And that's exactly what we're seeing at an unbelievable pace in the AI space. And to your point about UIs, models are going to be they're already commoditized. It's like, I don't care what, yes, there are certain models I'm not going to use because they aren't well trained. But from the large tech companies, it doesn't matter which one you're using. It's really about the user experience. It's like, how can I reduce, how many tools do you have out of the box? How many, how much hallucination do I have? And yeah, big business is not going to use this in critical path type applications if it's going to hallucinate. We can't afford it. So
Mhm.
they're absolutely addressing it, but they did get the almost $7 billion refresh. And the cool thing is here in New York, they actually just took over. They just leased 100,000 square feet, like down a few blocks from me. So I'm like, oh, we're gonna have some good meetups. So
Nice.
yeah, it's gonna
You're
be
doing
a.
in-person meetups. How's that going?
I haven't. Nope, I haven't. In fact, the reason I do these live now is because of the pandemic.
Right.
And I was like, well, let me try it. And then people actually started showing up, which was very weird. And but yeah, Microsoft's been knocking at my door for the last 6 months. Hey, why don't we do some stuff at the reactor space and whatnot? And I'm like, okay, I'm like, people don't want to travel anymore.
Yeah.
Why come in and be in person? But
Now, are you in the city, New York City?
yep, I'm
Okay.
in Manhattan. Yep.
So if
So
if people are going to travel, the density's there at least. Now I don't want to go too far off topic, but like, was the city broken or is the city back?
the city, it's hard for me to say because I just use the city to do my cardio when I walk.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
You are a geek
But
after all, and you're
I can't be that far. That's why I take OpenAI with the communicate where I can actually talk to it and I walk with it and I talk to it, capture my ideas. But it's not most people live in Jersey, or like a lot of people that used to come to the meetups lived in Jersey. So it's definitely a trek for them.
oh, right.
So, we'll see. But if you get enough interesting in-person stuff, and I personally believe once we start seeing OpenAI and Microsoft, I've already talked to Microsoft, like, hey, let's get a meeting going. Let's get an in-person between you and the top people from OpenAI. Let's get us into a room. I think people are going to show up in different range of people. So
Yeah,
it's going to be, I'm psyched about it. So, but I'm
cool.
biased. Um,
Yeah. I mean, we're both biased, right? We are people who get into the technology, and then you know what the bias is, right? You build it in. I'm a fan. I'm not going
it's,
to get into a piece of technology and then be agnostic about it. What's the fun in that? There's no passion in that. So we've got the same mindset, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening do as well. It's like, okay, either I'm interested in this and I'm gonna like really kind of get into it, or it's just sitting there, boring. And I hope to,
100%.
spread the news, the awareness, the knowledge, but the passion, I think, is what kind of, you know, we like.
A long time when I first started learning, figuring out, how to blog, I had written some articles before PowerShell, actually for the mainframe, but we won't go there. So I actually, when I was starting to write, and I was getting turned down for articles, and I was like, okay. And then this blogging thing came in. I'm like, oh, I can bypass the gatekeepers. So I'm like, let me try this, and I started getting an audience. But I went to this guy. He was at IBM. He was 100 years old then. His name is Gerald, I think, Weinberg. And he wrote this book called the Fieldstone Method of Writing. And his point was find things that you're interested in writing, his core principle. Why do you want to do that? It keeps you interested in doing it, and that will transfer to your audience. So I've always taken that since the 90s. I was like, I'm only going to play with stuff I have fun with. Because if I don't have
Mhm.
fun with it, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah,
And AI is fun. So
yeah. No, I'm with you 1,000% there. The I didn't realize this until much later in my career, but inside of work and outside, I was always building or part of technical communities. So it's the people around the topic. And I just love that. I love, like kind of meeting people or talking about this thing and, just sharing your love for that thing. Without that, what is it? I mean, it's dry, it's okay, I have to read this, I have to watch that, as opposed to something that's
exactly.
entertaining. Now, what if AI replaces that? Could it
What
replace
if?
that? Have you heard of NotebookLM from Google?
I think we chatted about that. I actually took one of my videos, the 10-minute video, and I dropped it into Notebook and I said, make a
Mhm.
podcast. And I listened back to it and I was like, that's what I was talking about. Wow, that's some deep insight. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I don't know if you want to share on the
cool.
screen or anything, but the I can kind of tee up. But have you talked about Notebook
Yeah.
L on this?
Nope. Nope. Not at
So
all. First
I'll lay
time.
it
So
out
go
for you.
for it.
Notebook LM is a service from Google. What you do, it's a research assistant.
And it's free.
It's free. It is specialized, and it has some similarities to some of the chatbot centric tools. But the point is the documents, not the knowledge from the LLM. So you take a set of documents you have, PDFs or whatever they are, you can upload a bunch of them into this notebook. And then you can do a variety of things with it. You can ask questions of the documents, and you can produce a summary of it. And then there's one unique feature that it has, which is to produce a podcast deep diving into some of the topics based on those documents. Um, I've One of the ways that I like to keep up with AI is to review some of the papers that get published. And there's a really kind of vibrant community of these researchers that are just publishing things on a weekly basis. Most of them, to be perfectly honest, they're way over my head. But I know that
Same
there's
here.
some elements in here that I want to, or maybe even need to understand. Well, upload those into Notebook LM, have it write a summary, teach itself that, and there's some agents behind the scenes. We don't know a whole lot of details about the execution of these agents, but there are agents behind the scenes that are taking the knowledge, breaking it up, and then there's two hosts. So the implementation of what they did is actually really clever. because the script, it's going to create a script for two different hosts, two different voices for those hosts, and then they did an excellent job in the text to speech. It sounds like human. I don't know if you want to like play one or something over the audio, but like
I'm trying to pull up one.
it's very
But
well done.
the cool part, everything there, and the only extra piece I would is they interact. Like
Hmm.
they'll just like what we're
Oh
doing
yeah.
here. So it's just bizarre.
You know what? Maybe I can share my screen. I actually do have a bunch of them up, so I'll go ahead and do that.
But I'm
And
gonna grab mine first because oh, you got yours already?
I
Okay.
beat you.
I have mine as just a WAV file that I pulled down. So what I it also has on there when you go to new notebook, you can actually on the bottom, you can say, give me a YouTube link. Right. So I did a YouTube, like a 10-minute YouTube on the PowerShell Excel stuff. So I'm just gonna play like 30 seconds of it. Let's see if we can
Yeah,
get this.
what let me hit stop first and let you play, and then I'll go back and show what the interface, how that works.
Okay, and let me just do a share, make sure the sound's on. It's good.
That was exactly the reason I didn't do it because I
You,
wasn't
you
sure which setting to choose quickly.
you are a Zoom expert. So I'm
I
gonna
am a
play
Zoom
30.
expert, and I know that I'm going to screw it up. So
It's all good. So this is I took my PowerShell automation video that I did. It was about 10 minutes, and I just gave it a link to the Notebook LM, and it churned through it for 3 minutes, and then it came up with this.
Ever catch yourself stuck in spreadsheet land? Like just copying and pasting, hoping you didn't mess up a formula somewhere.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I feel like we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Which is why this deep dive is so fascinating to me. We're diving into using PowerShell, of all things, to automate Excel.
Yeah.
Our source material today is this really cool YouTube video by Doug Finke. And just so you know, he's a
isn't that crazy?
15-time Microsoft MVP, so the man knows his spreadsheets.
Definitely an
It's absolutely now I didn't tell it to do any of that. That was not in my video. It
I know.
distilled that.
Yeah, and I'm just I was just super impressed. I mean, it's just a great implementation. Um, I've got a bunch of different notebooks. The one that maybe the geekiest, let's call it that one. I've got a bunch of Star Wars Fifth Edition role-playing game rule books in here. Okay, so it's called SW5E because it's based on the D&D 5th edition rules, and it doesn't. None of this stuff matters, right? But here you can see the document that I've uploaded, the text rather of it. It's pulling out summaries and showing you topics. At the bottom, you've got this notebook guide. And if you click one of these, what it's going to do is a structured ask of the LLM, right? It's going to say, produce me a table of contents, for example. And you'll see that it will produce a document. Or you can just, start typing and ask questions. You can see that I did that here. And now, this is a silly example, practical for me because I was learning to play some new role-playing game that I never played before. Uh, Quite practical for me.
Cool
But
application.
yeah, yeah, the context is that you could use this for anything, researching for anything. And this, for example, was a research paper example where Soundstorm is the name of it
Mm.
was a paper published by Google on some of the methods that used to do the text to speech that we hear in the podcast. So it's kind of meta, but it was way over my head. So being able to kind of come in here and get some overview of these, let's say I clicked on the wrong thing, that's super valuable to me. So I just had a lot
A-
of fun with it.
Absolutely. And then I'm sure you know some of the prompt engineering techniques. Like I will do the same thing with the papers. And I don't like reading Greek characters. And I don't mean like, Greek people. I
Racist.
mean,
Wow, Doug, seriously.
right off the bat, we're like not hardly in, and I'm going against the Greeks. I don't know what that means. But anyway, so the but what I do is also I take those things and I say, bring it down to a 10th grade level. Do
Sure.
it, so a 10th grader can understand it. So I'm not looking at all these large large words and the scientific stuff. And I sit there and this is an amazing, like, how else can I learn about this or have somebody
Mm.
explain it?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just
know.
told you to create a study guide. I've got in another podcast community, a gentleman as an educator, and he said he made lessons and then he made a podcast for each of the lessons and gave that to his
Did he do the
students.
podcast himself or he had this generate the podcast?
He had this generate the podcast, but he already
Sweet.
had a lot of content. It
Yep.
was his own
Yeah.
stuff. And he's like, hey, I'm going to help my students learn better, basically.
What I uncovered which I haven't really talked about, and you'll appreciate it, but probably know it already, is that I would do things like I would do my videos and I would upload it, and I would copy and paste the transcript that YouTube did, and I would paste it into ChatGPT, and I'd say, give me a title for this thing, give me five things I can choose from, and then do a YouTube description. And then I went
Mhm.
from there, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, you know what I can do? Write a blog article. And it would write a blog, and then I could iterate, but it was all my own words that I did the video on. So it had my tone and my style, and it was not, and then it would add really excellent flair. So it's like, this is not cheating, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
It's like
No,
for
I mean,
$20 a month, I have a free, amazing tutor that knows how to write good stuff. Great
yeah.
for audio writers. You got it.
So, I mean, cheating is an interesting word, and like we can talk about that for a while. And I'm gonna have to drop in I don't know, 5 minutes or so. But
Okay.
the that comes up, right? Because people are, you work. Let's say you work in a company with hundreds or thousands of others, and some people are using AI and some aren't. And honestly, a lot of them are. Like in the tech industry, a lot of them are. Um, if someone feels that you quote unquote cheated, right, you might be treated differently. Or the reverse. If someone isn't leveraging all of the tools available to them, well, that's not very intelligent, is it? I mean, that's one way that I would look at it.
That's
Um,
how I see it. But
yeah, but I have an example where, okay, so me personally, me as a person, I have a focus problem. ADHD, neurodivergent, blah, blah, blah. And it took me forever to really, wrap my head around, okay, how do I deal with this and what is it good at and what does it suck at? Well, completing something, doing something large, writing a structured document, super challenging for me.
yeah,
But I know what's in my head and can quickly rattle that off. And I've done a lot of the thinking. It's the getting what's in my head out on paper is the hard part. I went into, and I use just about everything because I do like playing with technology. In this case, Notion. It's a note-taking app, pretty
yep,
popular. They've got an AI feature. Don't know which models they're using behind the scenes, but it's probably OpenAI. And I went to it and said, I read to it text to speech using my telephone, right? I just started reciting a topic that I needed to write a document on. And I said, and after I forget if I started or finished with, write a business pitch on this, include these types of factors and X, Y, and Z. And this was a one shot. I had talked to it for, I don't know, 2 minutes or whatever. One shot, it produced a perfect document.
and you were done.
And I was done. And it was amazing.
And that's and us having the opinion of others who don't use this, that's just not making sense anymore. It's like, why not talk your to-do list? Be
Yeah.
AI first mindset. It's like, talk to it, tell it after what you did, give me a pitch, give me a strategy document. How am I going to tell my team? Why am I going to sit there and burn myself out for 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, and not come up with something as good?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would have procrastinated on this. I would have delayed until the last moment, and then I would have started it at 10 p.m. the night before, the day before it's
Exactly.
due. Maybe done a okay job or a great job. You just don't know in that kind
It
of
all
scenario.
depends on how long the Adderall stays
Stressed myself exactly. Yeah. Why do that? This AI
And
help.
now you can sit there for a bunch of minutes and that's what I'm saying about when my talking to this and even taking what I did and have a podcast about my video. Like, it's just a deeper understanding and a better way of presenting, and I don't have to do all that work, and it's as good, if not better, than something I could come up with. There's no
Yeah.
reason not to do this. And then people go, well, emails are going to be read by bots, and then the other ones, when your summarizations are going to be read by bots. Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll learn how to use the bots to be more effective, that we can have when we
Yeah.
put our initial stuff down. It's going to be really good.
Yeah. I
Hal,
mean, there's
thanks for
aspects
coming
of the
over.
read by privacy element. There's aspects of that are important and that I understand. I can
Absolutely.
see, where with some investment and innovation needs to happen for sure. Um,
That's not where I'm going to invest my time or money, but I'm going to
yeah,
leave that to OpenAI and big companies that have to worry about such things. But those are
yeah,
just the gatekeepers, in my opinion. It's like
yeah.
the doors are getting blown through here. We have the pneumatic hammer and a pneumatic nail gun now, and either you can stick with the old hammer or step up. Um, I wanted to say thanks. I know you got to go. I really appreciate you coming on. Great conversation as always. I'd love to
I
continue to
appreciate
talk
the
on.
invite. A
Yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
fun. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Excellent. Have you
All
fun. Have a
right.
fun day.
Take care, everyone.
Later. All right, folks. Is PSI AI safe for sensitive work data? No. Well, I should say yes, maybe. If you hook it up to your Azure OpenAI, which it can be done, then you have the same safety that you'd have using Azure. Then it's all depending on your risk profile. If you don't hook it up to Azure OpenAI, if you hook it up the default, it works with the OpenAI models, which they host on Azure, which they have all their privacy documents and say everything's good. So, you got to pick and choose, see if your company's okay with that or not. But yeah. And then again, other people will also make the point, and I agree with them. Do you really think that OpenAI is going to, as long as you're not passing your bank account or your credit card numbers, do you think they're going to really start to take your data and scrape it and do things like, based on the cat pictures you're looking at and trying to get more pictures out of that? Yeah, I don't think so. But it all depends on your risk profile. I don't sit there and ask it to do calculations on my banking and my checkbook. I would not comfortable with that yet. And but everything else, like, I don't care. I don't have any private code. I work with all my own public libraries and stuff on GitHub. So, but that's you have to figure that out for yourself. Don't take, So this goes to OpenAI and it goes to Azure. So if you go to Azure, you're a little safer, I think. If you go to OpenAI, do due diligence. Hey, folks, any other questions? If not, hope to see you tomorrow. If people are interested in Excel, I'm also going to do a little demo on integrating AI and Excel tomorrow. Glad it was informative. Yeah, Hal's a great guy. Hey, Axel, thank you. And Axel was on last month, and we did Axel and I did a 2.5 Geeks, which was great. I'm still working on the video on that. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be doing the awesome, Robert. If you want to join me on the Excel piece, I think that's going to be awesome. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to do real cool stuff on the AI live stream, the premium content. So more cool things coming. And what is the link for it? Hey, Pat, which it? Everything's on the meetup page, if that's what or are you looking for the PSAI module? So yeah, AI's, and between the end of this month and next month, and Anthropic's supposed to drop a new model real soon. So it's going to be a crazy 2 months. And by first quarter, this AI space is going to be on fire again at a new level. It's going to be good stuff. Is there an AI that I can speak my prompts to available for macros? Tomorrow's Excel AI. Yeah, that's on the meetup, Pat. If you go back to the meetup page, you can click that. That's not premium content, so you can just click on that RSVP, and it's tomorrow at 12:30. You can talk to AI today, right? Will it do for macros? Yeah, I'm not going to be showing integration directly into Excel. I'm going to do it different other way. Oh, for Mac OS. On Mac OS, if you go through the web, if you're on the web page, I believe on the Microsoft Edge has a microphone capability, and you can speak to it and it'll respond to you. So you can get that through the web. So get some experience there. And everybody's wrapping these new real-time speech capabilities into all their products. So yeah, definitely look at it. Definitely grab it. Definitely try it out. If you have an iPhone or you have an Android, you can download the OpenAI app. It's got the whole brand new voice capabilities where you can actually interrupt it now, and it actually picks up on your tone, and it's emotionally intelligent, so to speak. It'll laugh at your jokes, so to speak. And it's just like, that you're not talking to a human, but it's got some really cool capabilities. So and maybe we'll talk about that on the 25th of October. So yeah, hopefully see you folks then. If you think today's conversation was good, you see some really cool demos and next level AI. Hey, Matrix. Excellent. See you tomorrow, Matrix. Okay, folks, it's 11 o'clock. Let you go. I could talk about this till 5 p.m. But I'll give you a break. You're welcome. You're welcome, Alan. Yeah, Hal was great. Definitely, for sure. Later.